Well, good morning, everybody. Happy weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed the 4th of July and you spent last weekend, with all of your digits and no burns. That's the RepcoLite 4th of July wish for everybody out there. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And man, let me tell you, I've got a big show this week. I've got a special surprise guest joining me at the end of the show to talk about a design concept called the unexpected red theory. I'm also going to be joined by Kevin Hermann from Benjamin Moore to talk about the Alfred Pennyworth of the paint world. Now, Alfred, for those of you who don't know, is Batman's butler. And while we always talk about superhero products like Scuff-X and Sticks, this time I kind of want to talk about a product that's more like Alfred. It's a little bit silly, but it's going to be fun. I'm also going to be joined by David Popp from Rose Pest Solutions to talk about the spider problem, in the Hansen house. So a lot of things to cover. It's a full show. But right now, let's start the show. Since we just came off of 4th of July, let's talk about George Washington and how home improvement projects helped win the Revolutionary War and can help you win your own mini revolutions at home. That is a ridiculous title, a long title, but the concept behind it is pretty solid. And here's the scoop. During the Revolutionary War, George Washington sent a number of letters back from the war front to his home at Mount Vernon. And while these letters all conveyed, the usual greetings and whatnot, many of them also contained instructions, detailed instructions for home projects that George was micromanaging from a distance. Now, to some extent, this whole thing has been a bit of a puzzle for some historians. I mean, here we have George up to his eyeballs in a war that threatened his life and the future of the nation. And what's he doing at night? He's writing letters about the color of the draperies or the work that he wants done to the chimneys, or he's even sending some letters asking about how the painter's getting on. It is a little bit odd, and historians have wondered, what's going on here? How could these ridiculous issues be filling his mind at this point in his life? Well, a group of UCLA psychologists believe they've hit upon the answer, and I definitely think they've got a big part of it, probably most of it. But I do think there's a second part that's at play too, and we're going to get to my idea in a minute. But first, let's give the psychologists their due. Their argument is this. They think that George probably didn't understand that it was happening at the time. He didn't realize this was happening. But these small projects and decisions that he was making regarding home stuff, at Mount Vernon, these were helping him focus, and they were giving him the confidence for the bigger, more important decisions that he was going to be making on the battlefields later that day or the next. See, it turns out making small decisions, even insignificant ones, can really help shift our mindset from feeling like a passenger in life to feeling like a driver. It can instill us with a sense of control and accomplishment. Now, for Washington, when his brain was fatigued and overwhelmed by war troubles, when his head is spinning, and he's beaten into what had to be a mental state of exhaustion and, almost stagnation, when that's going on, these little decisions could have calmed him down and then helped him get moving again. Now, that's one psychological explanation for why, George was focused on these projects despite being involved in leading an army and a revolution. Now, I think there's another one that's just as important, but a lot easier to grasp. I think he was homesick. I think the home projects were a little window into regular life. It was relief from the stress, and it helped him clearly visualize the future the future that he's fighting for. Basically, he's got his eyes on returning home. And when he does, he wants home to feel like home. I think it's that simple. And I also think that there's something in this that we can all take advantage of. When life's chaotic and challenging, once in a while when that happens, and life's challenging or chaotic, maybe what we need to do is take on some small, manageable projects. Now, it doesn't need to be painting, but it sure could be painting. I'm not saying don't paint. I'm just saying you don't have to paint. It could be as simple as organizing a room. Maybe it's just reorganizing the silverware drawer. Maybe that's where you need to start. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's attacking the weeds that are growing in the cracks, in the driveway. Maybe it's painting a closet. Maybe it is painting. Who knows? Little tasks like these, they can give us a mental break when we need it, and they can instill a sense of achievement. And even if that sense of achievement is tiny, that usually starts a domino effect of sorts. Our confidence starts to get a boost, and we feel energized to tackle something new, and things just kind of grow from there. Secondly, when the world's spinning, when our world is spinning, our personal world is spinning, working to create a space in our home, a sanctuary of sorts, that's just really good for us, mentally, physically, and spiritually. It's just good stuff. It worked for the father of our country. It can work for us too. So there you go. Paint saves the day again, as always. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to be talking with Rose Pest Solutions about an army that's invaded my own personal sanctuary, and we're going to find out how I can get rid of them and restore peace to the land. All of that's coming up next. Stick around. Let's solve one of my problems. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore, and a couple of months ago, I noticed that there had been a leak in my roof, or at least something along those lines, because I saw some water stains running down a wall, and I needed to figure out what was going on. So I got a flashlight out, and I started looking at the ceiling and trying to explore what's going on, and I discovered tons, hundreds and hundreds of cobwebs that I don't normally notice when the lights are off. When the flashlight's not on the ceiling, you don't see these things. When the flashlight's up there, it's like we're living in the Addams Family, a set piece from the Addams Family. Well, I've got a spider problem. I know it, and I'm about to get my answers. I'm joined by David Popp from Rose Pest Solutions, and we're going to talk about the spider problem. David, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet.
Now, you're the district manager for the Grand Rapids area location, right?
Yes.
But you guys cover all over the place, right?
Yep, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio.
All right.
Yep.
There's a Rose Pest Solutions near you. So if you've got spider issues too, I don't want to be alone in this. So it's pretty eye-opening and depressing. So you've been working with bugs at Rose Pest for 20-some years, right?
Yeah, 27th year and 41 years in the industry.
All right. So dealing with bugs, do you go to school especially to deal with bugs?
We have a phenomenal training staff. We have phenomenal resources that we can use. There's no schooling. I've not had any schooling except for the schooling of Hard Knocks.
All right.
But we do have phenomenal training where our new people go to a school.
All right. So good deal. Help me with my problem. You've heard my story. Cobwebs everywhere. You can't understand. I can't overstate how many there were. And I do have to, for my own peace of mind, when the lights are not shining on the ceiling, the room does not look like a filth pit. But when I've got my flashlight up there, it's terrifying. Now, cobwebs, I know they're just abandoned spider webs, right?
They are abandoned spider webs that will carry on dust and any other item that might be floating around in the air. And so, it almost gives you the sense that, boy, I need to clean this place.
Yeah.
But you're right. They're abandoned spider webs that lost their elasticity, so they're not catching any other insects. But there were spiders there at one time. Yeah.
All right. So they're collecting the dust out of the air. So it's kind of like an air filtration system that I've installed in my back living room. So there's some positives to be had. But I know that means I've got a ton of spiders. And I know that I've got a ton of spiders. Ever since we moved in, we'd get the periodic spider in our other house. But this house, it's just full of them. I mean, we become one with them after a while. You just accept it. What in the world do I need to do? I mean, I've got to get somebody out there to take a look at this because I don't want to live like this anymore. And what does this all look like? What would you do in this situation?
Well, first off, I think there is something that you can do, and that is anytime you can, for lack of a better statement, insect-proof your home, utilizing caulk, making sure that all your screens are amend, making sure that windows close properly, doors close properly to help prevent other insects from entering. Now, you got to remember that the only reason spiders are there is because there's other insects coming around. The reason they put up a web there is the likelihood of insects coming there because they're going to feed on it.
Now, they have other problems too, is what
you
you're
could
saying.
have other problems, yes. It may not be like, oh my goodness, I've got a carpenter ant infestation. It could be something as simple as night flying insects, such as moths, or it could be flies that are coming around. So
my house sounds like a real joy to be in, doesn't it? Yeah, it's the place with all the flies buzzing around it. There's spiders inside, so don't worry. You don't notice so many flies inside. The spiders get them.
One of the other things you can do, Dan, is you can monitor it. And we'll take down webs. We'll take down cobwebs, take down existing webs using a Webster, which is just a broom that has a long extension on it. And we'll take those down, and that helps us monitor as well as make it not very inviting for a spider to be around. That's a good part of what you can do. And then obviously doing a treatment to take care of the other insects. It will take care of the spiders, but spiders are a difficult pest because they don't groom themselves, and because of the way their bodies are lifted up off of a surface, so they don't pick up an insecticide. You can actually put an insecticide on them like some type of aerosol, and it's going to kill them. Don't get me wrong there. But it's difficult for them to pick it up. So by getting rid of the other insects, you are getting rid of the spider population.
Okay, so we got to get rid of the other bugs first.
Mm-hmm. And another thing you can do is, like I was saying, as far as brooming off the webs and so forth, you can use. There are products out there. One of them is called Web Away, which puts a type of surface where they don't want to be able to place their webs. So you can utilize something.
Where do
like
I get Web Away?
I don't know if you can purchase it or not.
Can I get it from you?
Well, you can get the service from us.
Okay,
yes.
You'll come out and use Web Away.
Yes, as one.
Can I use my broom, or do I need a Webster?
You can use your broom.
What did you call them?
It's called a Webster.
A Webster.
Yeah.
So my broom will function.
Your broom will function. The one thing about a Webster is it's round, and so it's almost like a ball. So it's going to fit into some areas where your broom may not be able to.
Okay. Well, I really like the fact that it's got a name and that it's the Webster. In fact, I'd prefer to have that used in my home anyway. Nothing but the best for my fly-ridden castle. Anyway, so let's say I get you out there. I'm gonna, I've already gotten all the webs down that I could see. But the thing is, I've got a crawl space, and every time I have to go in there to get stuff, I just see, carcasses as far as the eye can see. And that's where a lot of the bugs are coming from. Mm-hmm. So I've anticipated this, that I'm going to need to get somebody out there to do that. Help me understand what the process looks like. So you're going to come out, you're going to have to assess it, because I really don't know what the problem is. Mm-hmm. So walk me through the whole thing.
Well, we would do a thorough inspection. We're going to not only look all around on the outside to see if we can point out areas where you're having, as an example, spiders accumulate. Mm-hmm. Why are they accumulating there? What are some of the things that we can do to take care of it? What are some of the things that you can do to take care of it? Some different type of lighting, some areas where, again, by sealing with caulk, we'll point out those areas. We'll actually do kind of stepping a little bit further here, ahead, but we'll do an outside treatment where we'll treat all the way around the house. Around the windows, the doors, the eaves, the soffits, down by the foundation and on the ground. But on the inside, we're going to do a thorough inspection. If you have a crawl space such as what you have, we're going to get into the crawl space, take a look around with a nice flashlight, see what we see. As far as a good point is to shut the flashlight off, and if we can see light coming through from any conduit or any plumbing or anything, any separation, we'll look for that as well. And we're going to treat inside there. We're going to inspect all the rooms on the inside, the kitchens, the bathrooms, all the bedrooms. And if you have an attic, we're going to go up into the attic area and take a look.
Okay, so you come in, you treat them. I've got like a million questions. I'm trying to get my brain around what to ask first. The treatment, how long does that last? I mean, so I've got to figure out how they're getting in or what's causing that. And get things sealed up.
Sure.
Because I would assume the treatment's going to kill what's there.
Absolutely.
But if I haven't solved that other problem.
Well, yes, it's just going to continue on. And so when we come in and we do a treatment, we come out 3 times per year. So anytime in between, if you start to have any kind of trouble, we'll come back out at no cost. But 3 times a year is what we need to do to be able to establish a good pest management program in your place.
Okay, so I'll get things sealed up. I probably need somebody to help me expose what areas need to be sealed up.
Mm-hmm. And we can do some of that light sealing for you.
Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. If they were really glaringly obvious, I probably would have found them already, because I have been looking. So I need somebody to help me with that. You come out multiple times. Mm-hmm. 3 times, you said, is what makes that work, ideally. Help me understand, how long does it take when you come out, to do a treatment in the house?
Well, it depends on what's all involved. Now, you had mentioned you have crawl space in an attic. That's going to take longer than us just walking through a basement.
Sure.
So it can be anywhere from 45 minutes to upwards of a couple hours. It all depends on what we're looking at.
Okay. Do I need to be gone? Do I need to be there?
We'd like you to be there. Unless we're doing something that, per our label instructions on the material that we're using, that says that you need to be outside of the house, then you can be there.
Okay, so what about like my crawl space? There's all kinds of things in there that I can't even begin to imagine. Are the chemicals that you're using going to seep into some of these items? Is that going to be a concern? Do I need to seal everything up? Get it in little airtight bags, like clothing in bedrooms and stuff like that.
You don't have to worry about bedrooms or anything like that. We're going to place the material in areas where the insects are going to be. So that's going to be in the cracks and crevices. Inside of a crawl space, depending on, I'm not sure what type of flooring you have. Is it dirt floor? Is it
No, they've
floor?
got old, gross carpet in there.
Okay. On top of soil?
On top of concrete.
On top of concrete.
So it's got that going for it.
Okay. What you would do in that, it's always best anytime you're in a crawl space, any items that you have in there, get your tubs, seal them up in the tubs. It's not going to be a concern as far as the material that we're going to use because we're not going to target those areas. So it's not going to seep in, as you referred to earlier.
Okay. Last thing, what about dogs, pets? I've got a couple of dumb dogs. They'll eat anything, lick all kinds of stuff. They try to eat bumblebees. Well, how do I keep them away from all of this stuff? How dangerous is it for?
Well, one of the things that we do not do at Rose Pest Solutions is we're not, as far as rodents are concerned, we're not going to put in rodent bait into areas because of the fact that dogs will and can get into something like that. I don't care how good a bait station would be as far as preventing animals from getting in there, they can still get into it. So we're not going to do that. The other areas that we treat, again, we're not going to be putting this in any of the pets in any kind of harm's way. Now, for instance, if we're going to be treating for fleas, as an example, we want the dogs to be out as well as people being out until the product is dry on carpeting areas and so forth.
Oh, man, fleas. Let's not even think about that. I've got all I can handle just thinking about the spiders and all of those things that I've got to deal with. All right, so I get you out there. You walk through, like the day that you come out, last question, and you kind of do you give me an estimate over the phone, or do you come out and look at everything first and then come back and schedule a time to come out and actually treat? How does that part work?
No, we can actually give you an estimate over the phone. There could be, for instance, if you're not that great at giving us square footage and things of that nature, our pricing may adjust as we get out there, but we leave that to the technician when they go out there. But we can actually do all the transactions over the phone when you first call and then schedule a date and get it done that date that we decide upon.
All right. How busy are you guys? I mean, when people call, how readily available are you?
We usually can get there the next day.
Okay.
We can
really nice.
Yeah, it all depends, though, again, as we get into our busier season. We try to get out there as quickly as possible. That could run into a weekend or whatever, but we try to get there as fast as we can.
All right. Sounds good. If our listeners have any questions, they want to get in touch, maybe they've got cobwebs like the Addams family in their living room. Maybe they don't want those anymore either. David, how's the best way for them to get in touch?
Well, you can give us a call at 1-800-966-ROSE, which is 7673, or you can contact us through our website at rosepestsolutions.com.
All right. We'll put all of that in the show notes. David Popp from Rose Pest Solutions. Thanks for being here.
You bet. Thank you, Dan.
All right. It's time for a break. But before we do that, I just got my spider questions answered, and now I've got a plan for dealing with the issue. What are you working on? What questions do you have at your house? Email those questions to radio@repcolite.com, and if I use yours on the air, I'll send you a gift certificate for $50. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're talking about superheroes and their butlers. Stay right there. Well, I've got 5 kids, and, I possess the size and the maturity level of a child myself, and one of my favorite things in the whole wide world is talking about superheroes. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And yeah, superheroes. I have loved superheroes since I was a kid, and the idea of superheroes colors the way I look at life. I talk about my own superpowers all the time, my superpowers of insight and my ability to read a situation. If you knew me at all, you would know that I'm completely oblivious in most situations. So most of the times I talk about my superpowers, it's sarcasm, but I still love the idea of having superpowers. I also love talking about paint products as superheroes in the paint world, and I've done that plenty of times. Now today on the show, I want to veer away from that just a little bit and talk about the Alfred of the paint world, Batman's butler. And to help me do that, I'm joined by the butler of sales reps and
emphasis on the butt. I heard it.
Kevin Hermann from Benjamin Moore. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I can't let this go, though. You said you were the same size as a child.
I am.
Not brain power, just size.
Same size.
Okay.
I'm the maturity level and size of a child with the brain power of an adult. So it's everything in the package.
Dang.
All right.
Wow.
Anyway, let's talk about superheroes.
Yes,
we
please.
don't have a ton of time on this segment, so I want to jump right in. Now, on the show, you've been a part of some of these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Hailey and I have talked on and on about products like Scuff-X and Advance and Sticks. And we talk about these products because they seem to have superpowers. Scuff-X resists scuffing.
It's phenomenal.
Better than anything else we've ever seen, right? It's like Superman.
Remarkable. Yep.
Right? Advance flows and levels.
Easy to use. If you can't use that, you really shouldn't be painting. Yeah.
So you've got that. Sticks from Insulect.
It adheres to everything.
Benjamin Moore product. Yeah, it sticks to every single thing out there. It's crazy. Superpowers. But then there's Regal Select. Won't. It's a key Benjamin Moore product. It's a flagship product.
It is the biggest seller.
And yet we have talked about it on the show. I want to know what's up with that. Is it because it's Alfred, it's Bruce Wayne's butler, or does it have its own superpowers? What's the scoop with Regal?
I think Alfred's probably the best way to go in comparison to make, just simply for the dependability standpoint, and that he seems to, when Robin or Batman in this case is having some issues, Alfred kind of like the wise elder statesman that just comes through and holds everything together and gives them correct advice. And Regal is just like that. It works every time it's tried. It's a beautiful product. It's incredibly easy to apply. The durability is off the charts. It's just a phenomenal go-to product that I sell most everywhere very successfully.
So are there things that Regal does better than other products, or is it kind of just always there, filling in the gaps when
I would say
something
if
happens?
You're looking for a very premium product, but you don't want to spend the aura dollars, Regal is a phenomenal product. A lot of the same properties. Doesn't go quite as far per gallon. It's not scrubbable in any sheen, in any color like Aura's, but that's the only product I'm aware that does that, period. Regal is just a very, very durable product that works no matter who uses it.
Covers
incredibly easy
really
to apply.
well.
Yeah.
You're not running into issues
No,
with it.
professionals apply it, homeowners apply it, do-it-yourselfers. It's very, very, very good product.
Now, RepcoLite is running a sale. That's one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it. We're running a sale right now through the end of July, 30% off the regular price of Regal. So you can get a gallon of Regal for about $58. That's a savings of basically almost $25 per gallon. And you're getting this high-end, super high-end product, one of the top products in your line.
You're getting a very premium product for a little less than some of the premium products from the home centers that aren't quite as nice.
Right, mid-level products, right?
Yep.
And you're going to see a difference. You're going to feel a difference if, you hate painting. If you feel like you're just not a good painter, one of the things I've really always believed is start by checking the products that you're using, because a lot of those will really help you. They'll cover a multitude of sins when it comes to your abilities. You'll find you're better than you think you are when you're using products that do what they're meant to do. So Regal Select, you can get it on sale, matte and eggshell, through July, 30% off. Kevin,
Fantastic.
thanks for tolerating my conversation about superheroes and all of that.
No problem. Thanks, Dan.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute, and I've got another special guest with me, and we'll be talking about the unexpected red theory. That's all just ahead. Stick around. Well, maybe you've heard of a new color theory that's been circulating the interwebs. This one's called the unexpected red theory. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And this unexpected red theory is something that was coined by a TikToker. And since I'm really not an established or expert TikToker, I had to go looking for help to talk about this. And after drudging around, and I got to the bottom of the barrel of all the people, maybe this person, nope, not interested. Maybe this person, not interested. Nope, this person can't. This person can't. Finally, I got to somebody who said yes. And Hailey's here with us now. Hailey.
Very nice.
Thanks for joining us. I was very excited about that intro. I was very happy to introduce you that way. You weren't the bottom.
Glad you had fun, Dan.
You weren't the bottom of the barrel. You were the bottom of the barrel, but that's because you were the only person in the barrel.
I see.
That I was looking in.
Even better.
Not that you were in a barrel. It's figurative.
The only choice, so fine, I'll take it.
Anyway. Let's talk about this unexpected red theory. The whole idea, let's just summarize it very quickly. The idea is this: adding any amount of red to a room where it doesn't belong automatically makes that room look more pulled together.
Right.
That's the theory in a nutshell. But what's the basis behind it? I mean, if we start trusting every single TikToker out there, well, I think anarchy. Isn't that where that goes, right? We've got to figure out. Does this even make...
that far,
because really, I could start making claims on the TikTok.
Well, you do, don't you?
Well, yeah, but I feel like I know what I'm talking about, at least there. I'm going to start just talking about random stuff. We don't know who this person is. We don't know this whole theory. Does this make sense?
Right.
Why hasn't it been talked about before if it's so brilliant?
I think it's really interesting. When I first saw a post about it, I was kind of curious, because all they're doing really is saying, what you described, that adding red to a space automatically improves the design of a space. And then they've just got pictures that play, right? Like here's all of these examples of just this little bit of red in a room and how much better it is because of that.
I've seen crime scenes where red is added and it didn't improve the look of the space. It didn't make it look complete.
Well, it probably improved the crime scene.
Well, it made the crime scene complete, but that kitchen just looks right now, doesn't it?
So dark.
Yeah.
I don't know how to come back from that.
No, I know. But, the idea is that you can say that and then you show a bunch of pictures.
Right.
But what I was trying to say is there are going to be other pictures that can demonstrate that maybe that's not the case.
Right, sure.
So is there something behind it more than just a few good pictures to make a case for something?
I started digging into maybe some scientific explanations behind this theory, to really give it some chops. Because I'm also curious, is this really something or is this just a trend?
Right.
That everyone's kind of globbed onto. Well, I think there are a lot of scientific bases for why this might be true.
Is it bases? Bases? That doesn't sound right.
Neither sound right,
nope,
to be honest.
Doesn't. A lot of firm scientific stuff backs this up.
Yeah, the first one is there's a lot of evolutionary associations with the color red, right? Red's impact is going to be traced back to our roots. It's very attention-grabbing, and that's because it could have signaled danger to us. So, right away, we're very engaged with the situation. Or it could have signaled that there's a ripe fruit available, both of which are very attention-grabbing in, our distant past.
Boy, there's a strawberry. I'm going to get my machete out and cut it out. Oh, there's blood everywhere. My machete must be sharp, right? Both of those would get my attention.
Very attention-grabbing color, yeah.
All right.
And, adding it to a space then is very attention-grabbing because of these evolutionary roots that we have with this color.
So what you're getting at there is one of the questions I had for down the road is basically red is an important part of this.
Yeah.
It's not just any bold color could
right,
be thrown
exactly.
in there and have the same results.
I
Red
don't
does something.
think that we're going to have a trend where now it's the unexpected lime green theory, because that could very easily be the next thing that people are putting out there, the unexpected purple theory. I don't think that...
I delete that TikTok post. I just made fun of it. That's where I was going.
I don't think that those would have the same impact that
So
we're
red
seeing
is
with this.
specific,
Right.
and that's one of the reasons. That's a scientific basis.
Exactly. Another one, this has, some biological ties and probably, again, tied to some of those evolutionary roots. But the color red has an intrinsic response biologically for us. So it actually increases our heart rate, increases our blood pressure when we see it. So it puts us on kind of that heightened awareness mode.
Do you notice that? Do you see red and you just notice, wow, everything's elevated? I feel like Spider-Man.
Potentially, if you were surrounded in it, maybe you might feel it. But I think that whether we feel these things or not, even a small amount of that maybe we're not conscious of still impacts us.
Okay. All right. So we've got a couple of different things.
And I think that, like I just talked about, making us, in a more heightened state. It's going to raise our heart rate, elevate our blood pressure. That sounds like maybe a bad thing.
Well, I was just going to say,
right?
None of that sounds great. Why don't we go over to Dan's house? We're going to sit in the living room and everybody's going to have an elevated heart rate.
Right. Like either that's like
for breath.
Angry, an angry response, or it could be a very excited response. Like I feel like it really vacillates between those two different emotions, right?
It'd be nice to be able to channel and control which outcome you get rather than just a roll of the dice.
Like, hopefully, because we're in our homes and we're seeing something positive, it's more towards that excited state where we're seeing an elevated heart rate rather than like, oh my gosh, that like lamp makes me so mad because it's red, right? Like that's not what we're going for here.
Right. And a lot of it is going to be scale. Of course it's going to be scale. They're not talking about throwing red
it's not really
all
unexpected
over the place
when it's everywhere.
Right. It's little bit. So it's just teasing you along.
Exactly. And I do think that makes some sense, in a design where there are a lot of just monochromatic colors, which I think a lot of us gravitate towards in design because it feels easier to just get tints and shades of one single color. Whether that's neutrals, I just have a bunch of different shades of neutrals, or tints of that neutral. I've got white, beige, and maybe some brown. Like that's my color palette. Like ultimately that's very monochromatic. And the same is true if we use blue. If we have blue in a room and it's navy on the walls, and then we've got, these, lighter blue and white accent colors, it's a very monochromatic color scheme. And that really doesn't do a whole lot to engage us with a space. And actually, studies have shown that monochromatic spaces can be slightly stressful to us because there's not enough variation for us to be engaged in the space. It doesn't.
I find that so hard to believe because I work in an entirely gray room. And I would never say I'm a stressed person. So, that makes sense to me. That was sarcasm, folks, because I don't know that stress ever leaves. I live in this heightened awareness zone.
Yeah.
Elevated heart rate. I burn bright, but I'm going to burn out quick. Mm-hmm, so when you find there's a new host for the show, you'll know the stress got me. And if I'd have just had little pops of red in the room, maybe I would have made it another week or two.
Would have felt a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does make sense.
A third reason is it does have an emotional response to us, not just, angry or excited, but red is also associated with passion, with warmth.
With Santa.
With Santa.
It is. Don't laugh about that.
Those are all positive things. So it's a nice color to have in a space when you're designing around, being social, being intimate. Like those are all warm, nice feelings to have. And red is going to give you that.
All right. So I don't know how many other scientific facts you have for us. I do want to ask a question about the red. Normally when we talk on the show, we'll talk about, you need to bring, maybe bring red in. But then we'll come back and say, red can be a pink. It can be kind of a terracotta color.
Right.
It's just got to have a little bit of that, the hue to it to some extent.
Right.
Is that the case here? Or does it need to be a pretty bright fire engine-y kind of a red?
I don't think pink counts here. I don't think that's going to have the same visual impact.
Okay, stop for a second. And more importantly, was that a dumb question?
No.
Okay,
no.
Go ahead. Wanted to clarify. Not a dumb question. Would you say it was a brilliant question?
I think it was a good question.
Okay, well.
I'm not going to go so far down.
Okay. All right. I won't interrupt anymore. So pink doesn't count. Why?
It's just not going to have that same response that we're looking for. I think the reason that this unexpected red theory is successful is because of the responses that we have on an emotional level, a physiological level, and an evolutionary level that makes this true. And pink is not necessarily associated with those same things that
what about
red is.
Some of those oranger colors that could kind of lean.
Yeah, I think that as long as it's a really strong hue still and we're not looking at a pastel version of that, I think it still counts. So it could be a very strong brick color that would give you a similar sort of effect on a room. And ultimately what I think this does, and another, kind of nice little fact, is that the wavelength of red is something that our eyes automatically sort of gravitate to in a room right off the bat. And so that is a really easy way to create a focal point in a room, because our eyes are always going to look at the thing that is the warmest with the most contrast first. So I think that's a lot of what makes this work on an interior design level, is that you're just creating a really easy focal point. And those are often lacking in spaces where you haven't hired a professional. Most of us are not really focused on creating focal points. And
I got like a living room that has, we talk about it all the time. I don't even know that I want to repaint the thing because it's such fodder for the show. But it's got all these white patches all around the upper wall to onto the ceiling where paint is peeled, and I've sanded it. That's a focal point. Your eye is instantly drawn into that room, and you ask, wow, what happened up there? So not all focal points are great,
very
I guess.
conceptual. Yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to say it's not always hard to create a focal point.
True.
And
Yeah,
some of
it's
us
not
do
always
it
hard.
even without hiring a designer.
That's true.
And
That
it just
is
comes
true.
natural to us. So in the last little bit that we got, you didn't know I was going to ask you this, but I'm sure you can reel off some things practically, a few practical applications. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I think that we're really looking for small elements of red, right? So focusing on decorative elements, whether it's a lamp or putting a rug that's smaller in the space, or even like an accent pillow, some art that has red in it, even the frame of the art could be red, right? You're just looking for these smaller pops of color. A vase is another good example. Maybe a chair, not like an upholstered one, but just a wooden chair that's painted red. That would give you what we're looking for here, just a smaller application of the color in a space where there's not necessarily a lot of other warm tones grabbing your attention at the same time.
Right.
So it's really about creating that contrast in order to create those focal points in the space. And that's what's making us more engaged with our room, and why this theory is potentially so successful.
How tricky do you think it's going to be to find the right red? Because there's
a lot of
range.
different reds. I guess like any time we're talking about color, start with those smaller color palettes like the Infinity Collection, the Historic Collection. Those are both going to contain reds that have more depth to them than some of the other collections where we're really looking at like a true fire engine red that might be too jarring, right? We're like walking a fine line here, and you can have a very saturated, bold red without it looking somewhat immature, if that makes sense. Like it can still be sophisticated.
Yeah, I know all about immature. Someday, maybe I'll learn about sophistication. Doubt that's going to happen. One last question. So I bring in red in some painted elements, and maybe I've got red in a couple other small scale items. Does this red need to be exactly the same? I know I've seen things with blues, for example, where I've brought in varying blues. They don't match at all, but they all work really well together.
Yes.
How about this theory? Does it need to be the same red all through, or can there be slight variation?
No, I think there can be slight variations. And honestly, you're probably not even going to notice it a ton if there is, because most likely, and probably there shouldn't be, items that are grouped together like this. So they're going to be spaced throughout the room in a way where you're not having a direct comparison. So it's not crucial that they're the exact same red.
Okay. So quick question for you, Hailey. Yes or no? Do you think I am the kind of person that if I did this and I had people over and I had different reds, I would make sure they were aware that each of these reds were slightly
these
different?
aren't actually the same. You probably didn't notice.
Do you
but
think
these are different?
I would or would not be that person? I know what the answer is.
You probably would be that
Oh, yeah. I'd have that picture frame off the wall. I'd be showing it next to the other thing. Yeah, look, these are different. I put them together. All right. If you have any questions about this or anything with color, make sure you swing through any RepcoLite. And we've got color experts on staff who will walk you through whatever you're working on, right?
Yes.
They'll get you all the advice you need so you can make the right decision. All right. That is going to do it. The clock is telling me I've got to wrap it up, and I've got to do so quickly. So we will do that. If you want to catch this episode again, you can find it online at RepcoLite.com. Make sure you do that. And yeah, whatever you do today, make sure paint's a part of it. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see you next week. I'm Dan Hansen. Thanks for listening.